This is the Effective Engineering Manager podcast. In today's episode, Adam and Slava discuss the new world of remote work and guidance around how to manage it effectively. Welcome to the Effective Engineering Manager podcast.
Hello, Adam. It's your time today. What would you like to talk about?
Hey, Slava. Today I would like to talk about a topic that I know is affecting everyone now, and especially coming out of a pandemic, 2 years working remote. We've really had to reevaluate and question how we can continue to work remote, and what is the workplace going to look like going forward. And I think it's a really important topic that I know a lot of people have talked about, but in our space here, building effective engineering managers, I think there's a really important set of guidances that we can share that will help all of our listeners. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's a great topic. Lots been written and said and podcasted and YouTubed. And I'm confident that we'll provide a very valuable twist on this topic.
Yeah. So I think to start, let's go back 2.5 years when most of us, especially in engineering circles, brought our offices home. And we were either instructed or guided to stay home for a long period of time. And what ended up happening there, I call it the brute force effect. We basically took the exact same working environment, conditions, communication channels, and we just brought them to our home, right? We still worked the same 9 to 5 shift. We still held the same meetings, albeit virtual and on Zoom. We still did business the same type of way that we did when we were in the office, right? We didn't really change. And I think for most of us, we were pleasantly surprised. We could still be productive. We could still get things done. That fabric of trust that we had already built with our peers and our teams kind of, for the most part, stood true. There was a lot of success, especially in some of the SaaS companies during the period, because they were more highly valued for different services while people were at home, and there was some unknown. And so I call that the brute force effect. And it was almost physically, people brought their monitors and keyboards and everything home, and many people set up a ad hoc office at home. And if you walked in your neighborhood, you would see everybody with large monitors in their windows or in their kitchen or in their offices, and desk chairs and all this kind of stuff. And if you had families, you had a spouse or other family members who were also working at home at the same time, and started to create some challenges for how to divide space and make sure there was no noise overlaps and stuff like that. But other than that, we were pretty much doing the same thing the same way. And over time, that worked, but I think it continued to wane, because what was happening was it was becoming harder and harder to separate home from work life, right? You would stay at your laptop longer, you would go and have a meal and come right back to it. You didn't have that 20 or 30 or more minutes to decompress from work or decompress from home to work. That travel time wasn't there, and so it was very, very easy to get caught up in work and stay working and not really create the same spaces for yourself. And especially when people weren't going out, and many people were not following some of their same extracurricular habits or gym and stuff like that, you really converted that time into work. And so now let's fast forward 2.5 years and where we're at now, right? Where this has become a more permanent way of living or working. Many companies have saw the benefit of this, both economically and in the ability to have a larger or more geographically diverse workforce. And so now the question is, okay, well, if this now is going to be my permanent way of living and working, does this brute force model still work, right? It's not a temporary thing. And for many of us, whether you're coming into the office 1 day a week or no days a week, working remote is going to be a very fundamental part of what we do. And so as managers, we have to really consider that and think about, how do we still do what we're tasked to do, which is maintain motivation and productivity, and get things done, right? And build healthy teams around that. And I think there's certain things that we can talk about here that are very important. And sometimes we have to flip certain things on its head. And I think at the end of the day, honestly, the key part of it is coming back and focusing on individuals, right? Focusing away from the mechanics of what we're doing and how we're doing it, and always coming back to individuals. And whether remote or in the office, what is going to be the best way for us to reach individuals on our team, keep them motivated, and work towards the long-term sustainability of having a good, cohesive team in a remote environment. What are your thoughts on that? What has been your experience so far?
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head, and I think I totally agree with you how amazingly well we transitioned from working in the office and maybe having 1 or 2 or 3 days a month from home to being 100% working from home. And I think it's at least for us folks working in IT, it was a miracle that we could do this. I remember those 2.5 years ago, I just told my team to go home even before it has become official. I just told the folks to grab their, on the desk labs and machines and laptops and monitors and and we, by the time the lockdown started, I remember we fully 100% operational, right? And but I also agree with you that it brought a set of challenges which we survived through. But I think now that this model has become a norm for many companies. I know that bigger guys trying to bring people back into the office, but for many companies, I think it's going to remain like this for a very long time, if it's not forever. So maybe if you could give us an overview of those top 5 things that we are going to talk about. How can we take it to the next level? How can we make it's livable, survivable, and productive working from home for month and years to come?
Remember, like you said, you told your team to just pack up and go home. That was also predicated on the fact that you knew the team members, you knew what they were capable of, they knew you, you already had trust, you already had, that team bond, right? So it was easy when you knew each other to continue that. But now, 2.5 years later, many teams are completely different. We've hired people remotely. We've built teams that are almost remote. I know my current team, many of the people have never even met each other. They've just seen each other on Zoom because they've either been hired, during this period, or they moved teams or whatever. So I think the first thing to really consider as a manager is the dynamics of trust in this new world, right? How do you build trust and maintain that in a remote world? And I think the first thing is, don't lose some of the key tenets that we've shared. Always continue to have your one-on-ones. Lean into them even more. Make sure, they're video one-on-ones where possible, so that you can look each other in the eye, see body cues, body language, and really create that communication path if it's not already there. And even if you need to extend your one-on-ones to be a little longer than the typical 30 minutes, because you're not seeing that individual in the office, you're not picking up on things that can add to your perspective. You need that time, and to help build trust, and make sure as a manager that you clearly communicate to each of your team members what the expectation is. Listen, it is a privilege to work from home, right? Even if the company is endorsing it, it is relying on the honor system in a large way, right? But at the end of the day, it's really about getting things done. So if you can prove to me that we can maintain a level of trust with each other, and that we're professional, and that you're, I as a manager am providing all the trust that I can in you, and not doubting that you can work remotely, while you also are giving the trust back to me and sharing that mutually, and that it's consistent, and we're talking week over week about what's going on. We're talking about how, how we're feeling in this world. We're talking about the challenges we're faced, and we're not just glancing over stuff just because it's easier to when you don't see each other, right? So I think building that level of trust is the first thing, and then along with that, I think, is communication. It's extremely important that we over communicate with each other, especially when the team has, you haven't met each other and you don't really understand each other's, personal preferences and stuff like that. And don't take advantage of the fact that you're remote. And so, for example, if you have to step out for a period of time, or if you have to take care of family or something like that, just communicate. Say, listen, I'm gonna have some in and out either today or periodically for things like that. I'll try to make sure that if it interferes with a meeting or whatever, that I'll communicate ahead of time my actions and responsibilities so that I'm not delinquent on that, and I'm also not just MIA. And over communication is really important. At the same time, as a manager, I think you need to also communicate that it's okay to attend to other things and break up the dynamic a little bit, and you're not going to be penalized for it. Create a safe space, again, coming back to trust, but also communicating that. And I try to do that in my staff meeting every week, just reiterating that line, saying, listen, I understand it's a new world for us in a lot of ways. I trust you all, and I'm letting you know and communicating that it's okay to do those things, as long as we're attending to the things that are in front of us. So I think trust and communication are like the two pillars that are absolutely critical, that have to be foundational, and they really have to be tenets. And if that trust is broken, it's really hard to get back, especially being remote. And I think that has to be recognized by the team. The team in some ways has to grow up a little bit beyond what they may have been used to in the past, or may not have been, and or not have seen. And they need to be able to look at their team members and their managers and their peers, and be able to understand the dynamics, and also make sure that they're maintaining those relationships of trust as best as possible, and feeding them always.
Yeah, good stuff. And I think the point of trust is critical, because now that we are deprived of, or most of the times deprived of, the face-to-face communications, and not being able to engage all our senses in communications, and including body language, I think it's important to lean, especially for us managers, it's important to lean into building this trust through one of the things that we can do is, if budgets allow, is to try to maintain some minimal level of human contact, right? And one particularly, it would be if budgets and geographies allow us to be able to meet on a relatively regular basis, and this can be I think there are like three possibilities, right? When people got dispersed and the teams got dispersed intercontinentally, right? That can become maybe once a year affair, right? Meeting, essentially not making it a, not, I'm comparing it to as with flying in spaceships in parallel courses, right? You can talk to each other, but you'll never see each other again, right? And I think we are not in this situation, and meeting team members and making an effort to allow members of the team to meet on a regular basis, what is reasonable financially, is super critical. And at the same time, all management principles, such as one-on-ones, have to be a law, right? You cannot drop one-on-ones, right? Leaning into feedback. And I think in the remote work model, positive feedback becomes even more important, right? And it is on managers. We talked about manager's diary before, one of the podcasts on the manager's diary. It's critical for managers to maintain even small, and keeping track of even small successes, right? And being able to provide positive feedback to their direct reports as much as possible, right? And this builds trust from the direct reports to their bosses, which is super important. And also, I think it's important to celebrate successes, and I think you're going to mention it before. You're going to mention it, and because when we were talking about this before we started recording. So also, when it comes to trust, because our communication channels are now diminished, to me personally, one of the things which are important is to maintain high standard of clarity when it comes to defining the successes of what the team is building, right? Because we are no longer can check in, stick our head into somebody's cubicle and have a quick back and forth. Defining what is the success is important. These are my initial thoughts on trust.
Yeah, I think you bring up some excellent points, and coming back to the getting together thing. I think there's, at least in a lot of the material that I read and seen online and seen what other companies are doing, I think there's this emphasis on making things equal across wherever any team is, right? Oh, everyone's remote and we have to create equal opportunities, whether you're, 1,000 miles away or 10 miles away from other people. I don't know at the team level. I mean, maybe at the organizational level, maybe that's a goal. But I think at the team level, I think there has to be flexibility, right? If if your headquarters is in, San Francisco, and you have a group of folks who kind of live in that area, I don't think there's anything wrong with those folks getting together periodically because they're just local to each other, and even if they're in an office or if they're just going to happy hour or this or that, I don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I think it is the responsibility of the manager to make sure it doesn't become like cliquish or that you're not giving advantages to people that are more local. But I think it's important, like you said, to find whatever opportunity you can, because the reality is our company is going to start spending thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars to have people fly across the world regularly in this new world. Probably not, right? There may be more opportunities to get together, but it's really going to be up to the manager to be creative, and you shouldn't wait for the organization to tell you what to do. I think you really have to go with your gut instinct. You go with your emotional intelligence. I know we've talked about this before, leading from front and behind. This is an opportunity where you can sometimes lead from behind. Let the team kind of set a little bit of a culture here in how they want to interact. And of course, some people are still going to be uncomfortable doing that, right? Some people, we're just coming off a pandemic. Some people were very deeply affected by it, either health-wise or with their family. We have to be sensitive to people that may not really want to participate as much as they might have in the past. And that's perfectly fine. And I think you're right. You have to always continue to reinforce with praise. We'll get into that in a minute. But I think this leads into one of the next guidance is flexibility. So flexibility with how the team interacts and gets together. But I also think one of the key things that I don't think is talked about enough in remote work guidance is breaking down the normal 9 to 5 mold, right? I tell my team now, I say, I don't really care what your hours are. I do care that you're not overworking yourself. I do care that you're not just working in the middle of the night and all that kind of stuff, of course, the extreme cases. But I don't really care, if you want to take off an hour in the middle of the day to go do exercise because you need to get that physical energy in that you're not getting by walking around an office or anything, or you need to get away from a crying baby or a spouse, or if a spouse is having another important meeting. I mean, these are new challenges and dynamic things that we have to adjust to stay mentally healthy, to stay productive, to stay, fluid in what we do. And so I tell my team, again, coming back to trust, you set your own schedule, you do what you need to do. Just make sure you attend the key things that we have as a team, right? I'm not here to be your babysitter. And if I am, then there's something else wrong. Attend the important things you need, attend the staff meeting, attend our stand-ups. But I'm trusting that you're doing your work, and leave it up to you to manage your time. And I'll check in with you in our one-on-ones to make sure you're not, working midnight to 5 a.m. or whatever, or overburdening yourself. And we'll work through that. But flexibility is really important. And I think stressing that point of flexibility is also important. The other thing is, with flexibility, with working from home, people are not going to take off as much, right? They're tending to things, they're running to the post office, they're doing that, and that doesn't usually often require you to have to kind of take official time off, and that's fine. But I think also people are going to take less time off in general. Those days where you would take a day off because you don't want to drive into the office or because you have a headache, you're not feeling well, sometimes you push through it when you work from home. Encourage your team members to decompress, get away from work. Even if you have to grant them a free day here or there, look out for their well-being and say, man, this person's really been, I can tell, has been really diligent, working hard, nailing it. One of the things I can do in this new world is help them separate from work, right? And if there's no office or a limited office to go to anyways, just stay home and relax. Separate yourself, turn off the computer for a day. I've told that to actually team members, and it's really helped them. And it's helped them provide the perspective and kind of freshen up their mindset. So flexibility is super important. And that, I think, is going to be one of the key themes in how we maintain a healthy remote working relationship. The next thing, as you kind of mentioned, is opportunities for praise. In a remote world, we all want to be fed motivation and praise. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to double down on genuine positive praise. Find any opportunity daily or weekly to recognize the team for what they're doing. And, say, look, man, we did all this while working remotely. We did all this in a very tight timeline. Or so-and-so, you killed it on this. This was outstanding. I really appreciate you doing that. Or say, hey, look, I know the three of you got this done, and having to have a Zoom every day just to maintain progress on that is hugely exhausting, but you guys did it. You got the project done. You were very productive. Extremely important to maintain praise and have ways that praise can be visible throughout the organization. Because again, when you're working from home, you don't have that level of visibility. You're not walking down the hall from your boss or boss's boss, and they're not overhearing or hearing things going on that are recognition. So making sure that you as a manager are praising and sharing that praise with your management team as well. Then the last thing, which is I think also related, you touched on this, is celebrate small successes. And when I started, maybe a year into the pandemic, when I realized that this was going to be a more permanent model, I started to think to myself, okay, well, man, it'd be great to have the team just come into the office so that we could do like a brainstorming session, because it be more effective there, whiteboards and all that kind of stuff, and maybe have more people's attention and get more ideas and collaboration. And then I started to think about, let's find a time when we can have it on site together and be, do work. And then I took a pause and I stepped back and said, the team has already demonstrated the ability to work effectively remotely. While I can bring them in to do work and in person, and it may help, I think the real value and benefit would be is if I can get the team together to do something fun, right? Or a team outing, right? Going to a dinner, doing a team event. And I've realized the team is yearning for this. I mean, they are really looking for opportunities just to get together with people. As I mentioned, some of these people have never met each other. And so just creating opportunities to celebrate success and just to get together. and where the work would be secondary. It doesn't mean you can't get together and have a team meeting, but that's not the primary reason. The primary reason is to get together, to see each other, interact human to human, break down some of those barriers that exist when you're communicating remotely. People can interact with each other, people can see each other, people can start to learn each other's personalities a little bit better, which will just buy you so much in the long run. So opportunities for praise and finding opportunities to get together, I think, is really key. And I think one thing you'd be surprised at, I think by and large you'd find people would be willing to put a few dollars down to get together with the team. Now, I'm not talking about people flying across the globe, but people that are close to each other would get together and spot a few dollars to do a happy hour or a team event. I think for the most people would really see the value in that and enjoy that and participate if that needed to be. Ideally, the company could sponsor all that, but in case you don't feel afraid to tap into your team as well, because I'm sure they would also see the value in that. So those are some of the key things that I think are very key, especially for engineering managers in guiding towards this new remote world. Slava, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree, and this is good stuff. And I think I just can add just a bit of a color on a few things that you mentioned. When it comes, first of all, sort of a philosophical note, is that I think we all saw that working from home. I would like to find someone who will disagree. Shoot us an email or a text, or find us on Twitter. But we were and are much more productive and much more, my internal sense, maybe 20 to 30% more productive than we were in the office, right? And I was thinking about it, what could be the source? And I think number one is the office environment was very conducive to distractions, right? People walking by, someone stopping at the cubicle, you going to the water cooler, having water cooler conversations, which I love. By the way, I think this is a miss, but that was we did not have days, which, especially as managers, consisting of meetings starting at 8 and ending at 6, right? We did not have days like this, right? We knew that, meeting was something that we had to go to when there was a need. And I think what happened, one of the less than positive things that happened is this birth of a all-day meetings culture, right? And I don't think it's a good thing. And I think it is essentially a backlash towards more meetings, because we don't have this human interactions anymore. We are sort of intuitively trying to compensate for it, maybe. Maybe we feel that because we cannot talk to each other now, we have to talk more. So essentially, we do end up talking more to each other than before, right? And I think it's not healthy, because especially first of all, when it comes to engineers, managers in this environment even more have to make all efforts to make sure that they're spending most of their time writing great code or building great hardware, rather than sitting in meetings. This just should not be allowed. It just has to be religious, I think. I'm not a big fan of religious approaches, but in this case, I think we should make an effort when it comes to communications. But another thing, I think I'm doing it myself, and I'm encouraging our listeners, is to focus on pre-communications, which is essentially before you graduate to communicating through meetings. Focus on documenting what you are trying to convey, right? Are these thoughts and considerations? Even more, are these designs? Even more, are these proposals for changes? Give yourself time to think, document, get people who are involved to review in asynchronous mode without meetings. And once everything said and done, have those meetings. And the meetings increasingly should be about the decision-making process, not about let's talk about it. And we have a dedicated podcast on effective meetings. It's all covered very well. Meetings should be the last resort, not the first. And I see increasingly a lot and increasingly when meetings are a first resort, without agendas, without goals, without preparation, without even a statement saying, let's talk about something. Right? So I think it is critical to over document, over review in asynchronous mode through wikis, email, and get to meetings only when there's real need for it. Right? It's just super critical because this overloads, this deprives managers of time to think. Right? This number one a note on communications. Another note on the flexibility, and I really like what you said, because now our days are so full of uninterrupted work, we often don't even have time to have bio breaks, right? And some people told me they didn't visit the restroom for a day, right? So this is not okay, right? So, and it means that managers have to be mindful of the fact that when they schedule meetings, when they want to interact, when they want to work in synchronous mode or meetings, they should be asking their teams, do they have time to take care of themselves? Do they have time to go get some water? Do they have time to go get some coffee? Right? Do they have time to go to have a lunch? I've seen managers scheduling meetings inside lunchtime, saying that, well, that's the only time available on the calendar. Well, this is the time which is not available, right? And on a larger scale, I think because we are so much more productive, it's not because magically the more productivity was born. It's just because people are working more, right? And people need more time to themselves, or they actually they need the same time, right? Because we are productive not because efficiencies were born. We are productive because people are spending less time on themselves, and that's why being mindful and being proactive in asking what is what employees need to be successful, and what employees need their direct reports need to stay healthy and engaged and productive, right? That's an important thing, and being lenient about that is super critical, right? So asking, hey, do you need time do you need a break? Do you need a time to decompress? Are you okay? Are you overworked? Right? We as good managers, we do it all the time through one-on-ones, through communications and all. But I think we have to be deliberate now, even more deliberate than before. And I think the last thought on communicating, having this continuous stream of human interaction. I personally, even when during the pandemic, I tried to make it happen. If the team is capable and the team is local, meet in the office for one-on-ones and maybe go for lunch, if you can, right? It's a great opportunity to continue to see that we are all human beings and not just faces on the screen, and I think if you can support it, because some companies don't even have offices anymore, but I'm definitely doing it. And also you had a good point on budgets. Even throughout pandemic, I've never had my boss tell me you cannot meet with the team and you cannot take a team to lunch or to a dinner. In fact, I was always told, hey, if you have an opportunity, if the team is interested, go get them, go to lunch, go to a dinner. And even flying the team together once in a while is a great opportunity to sync up, to enjoy each other's company. And those budgets are available. And what I would like to encourage managers not to limit themselves in thinking that even if the times are tough and maybe the travel is locked, and or the company gotten used to the fact that there's no travel anymore, or maybe just at 5% or 10% of what it used to be. There are always budgets, and there's always a bit of a money that can be very effectively spent on the team, on getting the team together. Adam, it was a good conversation, very good topics, very good points. So maybe you could share a good checklist with our listeners so that can make their remote work more effective.
Sure, absolutely. So remote work, the way of the future now, in one way or another, and we believe the following are some of the key guidances, especially for engineering managers to apply to their teams. First is understanding how to build trust in a remote world. Through one-on-ones, leaning in through different communication channels, being creative, checking in on your team. And once you've built that trust, lean into it. It's a positive tool, and people will, for the most part, respect that and give that trust back to you. And that'll be a key pillar. Second thing is communication. Over-communicate where possible to make sure that everybody understands what the expectations are, but also what the dynamics are of the team. If you have to be out, or if somebody else has to be out, or if there's some challenges going on, communicate that to whatever way you can communicate. Don't just default to non-communication. Again, that communication feeds trust as well. Third is flexibility. Understand that in a remote world, we're not just replacing our physical offices at home. There's a lot of factors and variables that come into play from working from home, and we need to appreciate the need for flexibility for everybody on the team. And giving everybody that sense of flexibility, I think, reduces some anxiety. It creates opportunity for them individually to create a new space to work, learn how to best adapt, and stay healthy, both physically, mentally, and otherwise. So flexibility is key. Next is find opportunities for praise, and again, double down on praise, genuinely. It's really important when people are remote that they feel a part of something. And being a part of something is recognizing the work that's done, what we've accomplished, especially in very new dynamics for many people, learning new ways of doing things and staying productive, finding an opportunity to do praise and make it regular is really key. Last thing, celebrate small successes. Finding ways for the team to get together periodically, but focus on the human element, not so much the work element. Getting people together and creating those human to human interactions that we miss, those water cooler talks, those learning about what's going on in each other's lives and celebrating and laughing will be a huge investment for the future when you continue to work remotely. And it'll be a great thing for people to look forward to. It'll be an anchor for many people that really need that interaction. And it'll make, again, it'll build on this foundation of trust. People will learn to continue to trust each other and learn at the end of the day, we don't have to be in a physical office 5 days a week, 9 to 5 to be productive. And as you mentioned, productivity can actually accelerate if we apply some of these key principles right in this new remote world.
Thank you, Adam. It was good stuff.
Thank you, Slava. And we appreciate it. I hope this has been a great benefit to our listeners out there. We appreciate any feedback. Please reach out to us at contact@effectiveem.com, or you can add reviews or comments to wherever you're receiving this podcast. And we look forward to chatting with you all in the future.